Hello and welcome to Hear the Cannon's instant reaction show. I am joined by Caleb Skinner, who is live at Raymond James Stadium, here to break down the Atlanta Falcons' 31-26 victory over your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, this is the second time these two teams have met, and this second loss to the Falcons now gives them a stranglehold on the NFC South, at least for now. We knew the Bucs were going to be up against it coming into this contest with what happened last week, losing their two best offensive players, arguably, without Jamel Dean on defense, missing some key guys. Obviously, Tyke Smith going down was a big hit as well. Caleb, as we look back on this game, which the Bucs had a shot at the end, so they definitely showed some grit. But I'm curious, what was your biggest takeaway from this football game? I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, they're fighting. And it goes to show that this team is a lot more than just one or two players on the outside looking in. Yeah, you would say that being down Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, that the Buccaneers should obviously have no shot in being able to compete with the Atlanta Falcons, yet alone move the ball up and down the field. And that's exactly what Baker Mayfield was able to do with Sterling Shepard and then Rakim Jarrett, being elevated today as well, stepping up in huge moments. But how Chris and Mike have become Baker's kind of safety nets for him on offense. Without them too, he relied heavily on Cade Otton, which I kind of figured would be the case. And it was great to see Otton have a good day on National Tight Ends Day while he's at it. But there's another tight end on the other team that kind of had his way with the Buccaneers defense as well. And I think that's what your biggest takeaway from this is that, yeah, the Buccaneers defense might have improved a little bit over since last week, but totally together. They're playing soft zone coverage all the time. Not a whole lot of man-to-man stuff going on there. Guys in the wrong spots, just wrong reads and missed tackles as well. And just leaving guys open in the zone is just killing them. So defense has definitely got to pick it up for moving on from here on out. But that's definitely the biggest takeaway. And then the surprise, obviously, that the Bucs offense is able to move the ball even without their two-star guys. And use huge shout-outs to Bucky Irving and Cade Otton for their performances today as well.
Yeah, and talking about that Bucs defense, so yeah, they showed a bit of fight in the second half, but they gave up 24 points in the first half. There was a point of this game where Kirk Cousins had thrown for 4 touchdowns with just 6 incompletions. What I'm curious, Caleb, is like this is beyond a trend now. And I mean, I know this team has been banged up, but it is the NFL. So answer me this. Does Todd Bowles have a legitimate excuse for what his defense has shown over these past 4 weeks?
I mean, yeah, there's a legitimate excuse in the fact that you're dealing with injuries, and you've been dealing with it since the onset of the season even started, right? So it's something he's had to, add, just kind of get used to as he's been playing, but it hits in a different area each and every week, it seems like. So last week you had, Tyke go down. The week before that, you had Jamel Dean go down. So now your corners are down early on in the year. It's all about on the defensive line. And then, obviously the safety as well with Antoine Winfield Jr. on to start the season. So he's had to adjust on the fly, which makes it a little bit more difficult. You're trying to fit guys in positions that they probably haven't played in years or places that they're not normally comfortable in. And then you're starting an undrafted free agent rookie on the outside because your depth in the secondary is not deep in the slightest, no matter how much you do like him. He's still trying to learn the game as an undrafted rookie. So, yeah, I mean, he has a reason to, you have a gripe about the situation, but at the same time, as a head coach, and if this is what your laurels are based off on, then you should be able to do whatever with whoever you have. And it just doesn't seem like this team is coming together as one on the defensive side of the ball. But where that really begins is with communication, and it doesn't seem like these guys are communicating with one another at any single level. And I think it's very clear from the onset of things that linebacker is a huge reason why the defense probably looks as porous as it does lately.
Yeah, we got a comment from KGH for Life saying there's no excuse. And I mean, you just mentioned it, Caleb, the communication thing. I mean, that's one thing that is definitely not an excuse. And that's something we've heard from Todd Bowles. I mean, if you're referencing not enough communication, that is on you. I mean, you've got established veterans like Levante David leading this defense. I mean, you got to sort that out. Specifically, I thought today was a little bit troublesome was the lack of pressure they were able to apply to Kirk Cousins. 2 sacks on the game, both by CJ Brewer. So kudos to him getting credited with 2 of those. It seems as though Bowles made the decision to not blitz anywhere near what he normally does. Do you think that was a wise decision in hindsight, or do you think maybe he needed to mix in a little bit more of his usual, where he's got those stunts and those games he's always running to confuse the quarterback?
I think he's kind of had to go a little bit more base and a little bit more safe, and that's because these players are playing out of position. But you do see him dial it up on those big downs, right? And you saw it, which is when they're getting pressure, but they're not completing or finishing the play, which we've talked about so much. I feel like over the past few weeks, is being able to get pressures here and there, but when you do, you're not even finishing the play. But today, it looked really difficult for them to get in the backfield. But yeah, kudos to CJ Brewer for getting it done on his end of things. But you don't necessarily want to say maybe if a Greg Gaines was playing this game that they would have had a little bit more success on that front. But still, like if CJ Brewer is your best defensive lineman on the day, where are these other guys that are your higher round guys that play every single day against ones? Like, where are you? And you need to show up too, and they're just not. And it's just, I mean, you let Kirk Cousins again, like his second best or better performance in the first time around is against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and just letting them do really whatever they want to, and their offensive line held in the Buccaneers defensive line in check, and anybody else that was blitzing as well. So, kudos to them for that. And there's got to be some change eventually. I don't know where it's got to come from, but all around on the defense side of the ball, it just doesn't seem like anybody's on the same page. And not being on the same page causes these lapses and these big, huge plays that are open for guys like, I mean, Darnell Mooney had a day, and Kyle Pitts, who, neither of these two guys are usually talked about when they're playing another team. So.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Both those guys have had their two best games against the Buccaneers, so I don't think there's a coincidence at that point. Shifting over to the offensive side of the ball, how do you feel about Baker's performance today? You mentioned a little bit off the top, but I'd like you to dive into that. And one thing, for anyone, was he was 37 for 50, 330 yards through the air, 3 passing touchdowns, but 2 interceptions, and he now has 7 picks in his last 3 games. So weave that into your response if you could, Mr. Skinner.
Yeah, it's those early picks that started this kind of losing streak or whatever. Those 3 against the Saints, and 2 of them aren't on him, 1 of them are. But then following that, a lot of them have become on Baker Mayfield. Today was bad. Like one of them he threw into double coverage. There's no way he should have gone there. And then the other one, yeah, AJ Terrell came off of his guy, but you have to know that a hawk in a ball hawk corner like in AJ Terrell is going to be able to make those moves. So you got to like outplay the coverage, if you will, for Baker's part. Yeah, you're going to have a ton of attempts a game, but it depends on what you do with them and at what point you do with them. And that first one that he had, you were in field goal range. You left points on the board no matter what because you turned the ball over. So it's tough. You got to eat it and move on to the next play, but it's not something that's clearly living in his head. He's still coming out and slinging the ball and letting it rip, which is good to see. But at what point do you say, like, hey, now I'm got to be really cognizant of this, because this is like getting excessive at this point. You're almost at 2 interceptions a game over the past 4 games or so. So there's, I wouldn't say worry. I say a lot of these corners are just playing him really well, and knowing that the Bucs don't have their full arsenal of weapons, it just makes it all that much easier for them to take those guesses or make those explosive plays.
Yeah, and on off, I mean, that Rashad White fumble really hurt right off the bat. Ended up like, it looked like the Bucs were doing a great job running the ball and having success there, but unfortunately it felt like they had to navigate away from that because they were playing from behind. So that was unfortunate to see. I mean, 15 carries between Bucky and Rashad on the day, not enough. However, it feels like Bucky Irving is making a lot happen in his touches. Like, elusive is one thing. We all knew the guy could make people miss tackles in college, and that was sort of what his thing was coming into the league. But you're hearing a lot more about what he couldn't do because of his size and his speed not being high enough. But my God, that guy, like, he is making people miss in real tight confines. He really, really impressed me today.
Yeah, Bucky is every bit and more of what we've wanted, and what he's just surpassed that. He was questionable coming into this game, had limited practices or no practices early on in the week before practicing, on Friday. So then that came out, and it came out that he was going to play, and, it's part of that 3-headed monster that's become Sean Tucker and Rashad White. So Bucky Irving is definitely looks like the more natural of the backs in the backfield running the ball. Other than Sean Tucker, Rashad White obviously really good at the screen game, and that's kind of what we've become accustomed to and what it seems to be rolling with. Bucky Irving, he's so shifty, so elusive, breaks tackles at the line of scrimmage, makes guys miss in open space, and you can't say enough about a rookie being able to do that in the vision that he has as well. So he's going to continue to keep doing his thing, which is great to see. But I agree, Colin, wholeheartedly there. When you have 15 carries between the two, you probably want more. Maybe there was a point in that fourth quarter where you had 9 minutes left. You might have been able to run the ball a little bit, open up that rollout game and that play action for Baker Mayfield as well. Don't put as much pressure on him to go and make a play. But, that's hindsight 2020. What's working for you at the moment is what you're going to keep rolling with. And that's what Liam has seen with his successes so far in the NFL and even at the collegiate level. But, you started that conversation off by stating, that fumble really hurt us. I think that play, along with the Antoine Winfield knockout at the goal line that they didn't have a clear straight down sight of, is probably one of the bigger game changing plays or non game changing plays that occurred today.
How is there no footage, Caleb? Like, where's the pylon cam all of a sudden?
I don't know. You would think that they would have that figured out, or at least have somebody there sitting there. But that's what it was explained to us, and that's what it was. It clearly looked from everywhere in the press box and around the stadium that it, like, even though you don't have a direct, straight on shot of it, even from an angle, it looks like it was out or starting to come out before the goal line. And some people in the press box, some of the other media had some friends out in the stands that were watching it who were on the actual goal line. They were like, yeah, it wasn't even close. Like, it was out well before. It's just they didn't have an angle on it. So, just one of those things you got to bite and move on. But yeah, that one was a really tough one because it would have swung the momentum completely over to the Bucs side too.
Like, I can't even remember a game where we didn't get footage straight across to the goal line in the NFL in recent memory. So that just is completely mind-boggling to me. Moving forward, because they got to find a way to pick themselves up and move forward. Baker Mayfield showing a lot of that, motivation. It seems like at the press box, from what I could hear. Sorry, at the press conference, from what I could hear behind you before we came on the air. But the Bucs are going to Arrowhead Stadium to take on the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Can they win that football game? And if so, what needs to change?
Yeah. I mean, the Chiefs are beatable this year. At least that's what it looks like when you're just giving it the eye test, right? When you're seeing, how they have been playing and how they have been winning these games. It hasn't been pretty by any means, and a lot of that has to do with they're missing two of their star players, and Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco in their backfield as well. So they have their own struggles, but they still have one of the better defenses in the league. So you do have the ability to go out and win this game, but again, it's all going to come back to what are you going to be able to do on the defensive side of the ball. If the defense can figure out how to play cohesively as one unit, then you have a chance of being able to win that game. If your defense is going to play like they have been and allowing quarterbacks to have their best games against you of the season, then you're not going to really have a chance because you are playing Patrick Mahomes, and he's still lethal and still has Travis Kelce there as well. So I think it is a winnable game. I don't think the atmosphere is necessarily going to be what, people originally thought it was going to be, because both of the teams are, kind of middling, even though the Chiefs record says otherwise right now. So I think it could happen, but it'll be up to the defense. Will the defense be ready to step up, and will Todd Bowles be ready to, take some risk? Because I think his seat is getting a little warmer and warmer each passing week at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I think the Glazers and Jason Light will give him at least the rest of the season, but it has got to be in serious question if his defense is not able to figure something out to stop some of these teams. So you absolutely are right there. Now, we're getting a lot of comments. And by the way, folks, if you're joining us for the first time or not for the first time, either way, make sure, please, you head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the channel there. Like, all that good stuff. Helps us out a bunch. And make sure you're visiting BucsGameday.com. Sports Illustrated, the only website that covers the Bucs 24/7. And we've always got content flowing. Where does this team need help more right now? Because is it wide receiver or is it corner? That's my big question. We saw a guy like Rakim Jarrett. I was so impressed with what he did today. Like, he's a little, we got the McMillan, the Sterling Shepard types. They're kind of more like slot-ish. A guy like Rock Jarrett down the field looks like he can come down with some balls. So that was impressive. But then you see two like Funderburk and Merriweather, both at some point undrafted free agents, Merriweather last year and then Funderburk this year, give up touchdowns today. What's more important? Does this team need help at corner more, wide receiver more, both, or neither?
I'll put it in order for you where they need help. I wrote a piece earlier this week about what wide receivers the Bucs should target, before the trade deadline. I don't think they necessarily need to do that now. So number one overall, I think that they most need help at is the linebacker spot. I think without that, you're kind of allowing teams to kind of, even if they make mistakes, maybe they get some help there. And with Voss obviously going down, the level of play that you're seeing from KJ Britt isn't the best by any means, especially when in coverage. So looking in the linebacker room would kind of be the most important area for me, and then probably go corner, and then you can go down to wide receivers there at 3. But yeah, the linebackers being able to have, like, you can get away with mistakes if you have good linebackers, because then you can shut down those short intermediate passes that end up being screens or dump downs to a tight end, things of that nature. Eliminate those out routes too. So it'll improve your third down efficiency when you have some linebackers that can move in space and cover as well. So if they are trying to do anything, maybe go look out there for a linebacker. And I'm not, obviously Devin White's not on the market anymore, but stay away from guys that are not going to fit the mold of what you want, which obviously I think Jason and company really pay attention to the most whenever when they are doing their evals on what type of person they want to bring into this locker room.
For sure. And, I got to say, just to circle back on our Baker Mayfield discussion, despite throwing the 2 picks, like, I think he played pretty darn well. And I do not think he was the problem today with how trying to figure things out with that offense. It really all comes back to Todd Bowles' defense to me, and not finding a way or having an adequate enough game plan to hinder Kirk Cousins' progress in a game. Like, that first half was just too easy. So, anyway, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Again, make sure you're checking out BucsGameday.com on the regular. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Caleb, thanks for joining us live from Raymond James in the press box there, man. We appreciate you and your insight always. While you're at it, feel free to give us a follow on Twitter if you feel extra generous. Our handles are right there on the screen, folks. And we will be doing a live episode Wednesday at 8 p.m. as we always do, teeing up the Buccaneers Monday Nighter, where they'll be traveling to Arrowhead in Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins now, and the rest of Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll tee that up for you on Wednesday. Set your timers. Make sure to join us then. And until next time, go Bucs.